Us now to discuss someone who knows how taxes work, the tax law, former IRS Chief Counsel Attorney Phillip Hackney. Phillip, thanks so much for taking time this morning.
Oh, thanks for having me today.
So let's get into this in a way that I can understand, folks at home can understand. Michael Cohen, we should note, who is, of course, Trump's lawyer and fixer for more than a decade, he was asked specifically on the Hill how Trump reduced his tax bill. I want to play that answer and then ask you a question about it. Have a listen.
Do you know, to your knowledge, was the president interested in reducing his local real estate bills, tax bills?
Yes.
And how did he do that?
What you do is you deflate the value of the asset, and then you put in a request to the tax department for a deduction.
So you deflate the value of these assets. You also claim losses. That's legal. The question is how far you go in doing so, right? And what you use to justify that. But based on your reading of this story, what exactly did the president do here?
Yeah, so it is kind of funny. And I'm thinking that what Cohen is suggesting there is depreciation by deflating the assets. It seems that year after year, President Trump has lost at his businesses. And if you're a business person, you can do that, right? You and I, we work for a living, get paid employment income. It's very hard to offset that money. But when your lifestyle, in effect, becomes your business, there are more opportunities potentially. But additionally, when you actually lose money, as they suggest has happened over the years and is reflected in the tax returns, as reported by the New York Times, you can actually end up showing massive losses even though you have income. It really seems odd in comparison, I suspect, to his lifestyle, which seems to be exhibiting quite a bit of income. And yet he ends up having these massive losses after bad investments, effectively.
Good morning, Phillip. We're glad we have you here with us this morning, as Jim said, to just set this out in layman's terms for everyone. Why are paying federal taxes? Why are they so important? What do they fund?
Yeah, so they fund everything, right? I mean, they fund health care, they fund Social Security, they fund building roads, they fund administering our system and our army. And we all pitch in to do that. To me, it's a civic duty to put money into the system to ensure we have a well-run system. And when you find out that there are wealthy individuals in particular, it can be pretty galling to find out they played zero over 10 years. And in the first 2 years, well, in 2016, when he was running, and in 2017, he paid this exact amount of $750. I think most people pay more for their rent per month for that than he paid in taxes that year.
The average U.S. taxpayer pays more than $12,000 a year, so many multiples of what the president did. And as you say, listen, soldiers' salaries, the weapon systems the president repeatedly touts, et cetera. There's a conflict here that strikes me, and again, as a layman, not as an expert, but the president seems to have inflated the value of his assets to get loans, exaggerate the worth of his businesses to get loans, but deflate them, underplay to not pay taxes and even get more than a $70 million refund, which might strike folks at home as pretty remarkable given he only paid $750 in taxes. Can you play both sides of that game legally?
So it's impossible for us to know exactly what he's doing in these returns. And it is quite possible that he's just been a massive loser. It's also quite possible that he's been borrowing other people's money in order to get deductions that weren't really entitled to him. He additionally seems to be engaging in some deductions like his haircut. He deducted $70,000 one year, apparently, for haircuts. And that gets into questionable deductions, right? Haircuts are pretty quintessentially, according to the tax court, non-deductible expenses. They can be in some cases, but he does get a bit aggressive with some of the deductions, at least from what we can see.
You see a real issue with the consulting fees. Can you briefly explain that?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily, it's not, he's not dead in the water from those things, but a 20% consultancy fee, large consultancy fees year after year, suggest maybe some gamesmanship going on. His father played a lot of estate tax games, according to the New York Times reporting that came out about a year ago. This is a useful way to shovel money to children, and there's at least a suggestion in the New York Times reporting that perhaps this is what's going on. Some of the money is suggested went to Ivanka Trump, over $700,000, even though she was a chief executive officer of his company. She's getting consultancy fees, kind of a conflict of interest going on there, but possible it flies, but it does suggest problems.
Yeah, that was a remarkable detail on the Ivanka money, right? The way they tracked that was the exact amount that the president claimed was claimed as income on Ivanka Trump's tax returns, to the tune, as you say, of many hundreds of thousands of dollars. Phillip Hackney, thanks for helping walk us through this.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.